Hi guys, welcome back to another tutorial. And for this tutorial, we'll be making a top with tulle ruched sleeves. And you'll be needing these materials: your main fabric, tulle, your tape rule, your pattern paper, of course, wording, scissors, pins, your marker or tailor's chalk, and your lining. So first things first, we're going to be drafting out our front bodice, and we're going to draw a straight line which will serve as our shoulder line like this. After drawing that, we're going to put in our bust point measurements and on the bust, and then the length of your blouse. I'm going to use this length that is there, which is 24 inches. So I'm just going to mark that and mark a straight line. So now I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurements, which is 15 inches divided by 2 is 7.5 inches. Then I came down by 1 inch to form my shoulder slant, and then I ruled a straight line like that. Now from that shoulder slant, I'm measuring 8.5 inches, and then I'm ruling a straight line. That line will serve as my armhole line. I'm just going to go ahead and label my lines like this. So now I'm going to be marking another armhole line about 2 inches gap. I'm going to be marking a straight line like this. Then I extend the slant. Make sure that is up to 8.5 inches. So now I'm going to be taking my bust span measurements. Mine is 8 inches and I'm dividing it by 2, which is 4 inches. And so I'm going to be marking that all the way. Now on my underbust line, I'm going to be taking about 2 inches gap. Same thing I did for the armhole line. So I'm going to mark that and mark it all the way down like this. Now for my shoulder slant, I'm measuring 5 inches. I'll do the same for the other line. Then I just extend my lines like that. Now from that point, I'm going to draw a curve and connect it to my bust span line like this. That is where the curve will be connected to. And on the underbust line, I'm going to draw a curve and connect it to the bust point line, and then connect it again to that point on the armhole line, on the second armhole line. Please do not mind me at all. Use your French curve to do this. So now I'm just going to highlight the lines like this. And this is what it should look like. So now I'm going to add in all my measurements, my bust measurements plus 2. And on my underbust measurements, I'm going to add my measurements plus that 2 inches that we took, and then another 2 inches for my allowance. And then on that line, I'm going to add my hip measurements plus that 2 inches again that we took, and then another 2 inches for allowance. Then I connect all my lines. So from that slant, I'm going to measure half of 8.5 inches, which is about 4.25. Then I mark a straight line about half an inch like this. I make it inside. Then I draw a curve like this. Again, please use your French curve to do this. This would be my armhole curve. Then I do the same for the other line and draw a curve also. Now I'm going to be taking my neckline measurement and I'm using 4.5 inches as my width and 5.5 inches as the depth. And I'm just going to connect the points like this. Then I draw a curve. You can choose to make yours a v-neck. You just draw a line over it like this. But the v-neck is supposed to be deeper than 5.5 inches, so you can make yours deeper. So now this is the pattern for the front bodies. To draft the back bodies, I'm just going to draw a straight line like this. I'm also going to mark another line with 1.5 inch gap. That will be my zip allowance. And this is how it should look like. Now I've marked my shoulder slants and armhole line. And from that slant, I'm going to go down by 5 inches like this. We are not adding another armhole line, just one is okay. So now from my zip allowance line, I'm marking 4 inches like this. Then I connect the points. And on that line, I'm going to mark half inch on the left hand side and on the right hand side. Then I connect the lines like this. After that, I connect that point on my armhole line to the other line like this. I'm just highlighting all the lines. Then I put in all my measurements plus 2 inches allowance. And then I mark all of that. Now I'm just extending my armhole line. And from that shoulder slant, I'm measuring half of 8.5 inches, which is 4.25. Came in by half an inch and then drew a curve which will serve as my armhole curve. Now I'm measuring my neckline and I'm using 4.5 inches as the width also, and then for the depth I'm going to be using just 3 inches. Then I make a curve, and that is all for the back bodies. It's time to cut. So we cut in two first and then cut the front bodies first. Now this is our front bodice and the back bodice. Now I'm going to cut my pattern on my main fabric. And I'm going to be cutting with seam allowance of half inch. Just pin it down and then start cutting. I wanted the top to be longer, so I'm just adding 1.5 inches. I'm actually adding just 1 inch, but the remaining half inch is for seam allowance. So I'm just going to mark that, and I do the same for all of my patterns. Here I'm making a notch on the bust points and on the underbust. Is going to serve as a guide for me when I'm joining the patterns together. So now these are all of our patterns. I'm going to go ahead to cut out the lining too, and then the wording. I'm just going to cut it halfway. From the underbust, I came down by 2 inches, and that is how short I want my wording to be. Then I'm going to place it like this and then cut it out. This is how it looks like. I did the same for the center pattern. I didn't cut it full. I just cut it halfway like that. And this is how it looks like. So now I'm going to iron the wording on my fabric. I'm going to place the shiny parts on the wrong face of my fabric like this. And then iron it. So now I've drafted out my sleeve pattern. My full sleeve length is 23 inches. Here I cut out 6.5 inches. And now I'm going to be slashing the sleeve pattern about 2-inch gap. Then I number it. Now I'm slashing the pattern like this. So now we have this. So now to cut out the upper part of my sleeve, I folded my fabric in 4. Then I arranged the slashed patterns like this, leaving about 2 inches gap. You can make yours wider than that. But this is how I did my own. Make sure you pin the pattern to the fabric. And now I just used my chalk to reshape my pattern like this and did the same for the down part. Then I cut it out, leaving seam allowance about half an inch. Now for the tulle parts, remember we've used 6.5 inches for the upper part of the sleeve. So 23 inches minus 6.5 inches is about 16 and a half. And that is what I'm marking here. I'm going to mark double of that. So 16.5 inches in 2 places. I'm going to mark it because I'm going to be ruching this part of my sleeve. You can make yours longer than that or shorter than that, but I just want to ruch it. So it has to be longer, like really long. So now I'm taking my round sleeve measurement, which is 13 inches divided by 2 is 6.5. Then I'm adding 1.5 inches as seam allowance. Then I mark that all the way down and then rule the straight line and cut it out. So this is what we have, and by the time we reach it, it's just going to go back to our normal length, which is 16.5 inches. So now I've already ironed my wadding to my main fabric, and then I'm going to join my patterns together. Make sure it's equal to the notched areas. And this is what it looks like after joining. You see, it looks really pretty already. Now I'm going to line it and do the same for the back piece also. And this is what it looks like after lining, and the back piece too. I've lined it also. So now I'm going to join the shoulders. I'm placing the main fabric on the main fabric, and then used one part of the lining over it like this. I'm just going to place it over it and then sew a straight line. Now this is what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and shape my top, the bust shaping waist and the lower waist also. From my armhole line, I came down by 2 inches, and it's from that point I'll be doing all of my shaping. Now I'm just marking the midpoint of my tulle fabric. I have about 16 inches there, so the midpoint will be 8 inches. So I'm just marking it all the way down like this. Now I'm going to be running a gather stitch from that midpoint. I'm going to be running it on that line that I've marked like that. And then I run a gather stitch on the upper part of the sleeve like that. And then this is what we have. So now I'm just going to draw the thread gently, really gently. Going to gather it till it's about 16.5 inches. So now I'm just going to join the upper part to the lower parts and make sure the gathers of the upper parts is in the middle. Then I'm just going to join them and then take my round sleeve measurements and shape it. I'm going to do that also for the other sleeve pattern. So now this is what we have. Before I started joining it, I left about 1.5-inch gap like this. So now I notch the midpoint of my upper part like that. Then I'm going to be joining midpoint to midpoint and then pin it round my armhole. Remember the midpoint of my sleeve to my shoulder, joining like this. Then I'm going to join all of it round. And this is what we have. So now I'm just going to connect the lines and join the other sleeve. And this is what we look like. All pretty, 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 pretty. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't. When you make your own top, do well to tag me on Instagram. So till our next tutorial, stay jiggy. Bye.